Conor, you're on mute.
Conor, you're on mute.
Apologies and good evening again, everyone. On behalf of the Wicklow PPN Secretariat and Wicklow Older People's Council, I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone joining us tonight. We would like to thank our PPN members and the Older People's Council for working with us on this event and for sending in your questions. With a little less than 2 hours at our disposal, time will be tight. We will do our best to cover all the questions, and if there is time at the end, we will take a couple of questions from the participants. Please use the Q&A function to submit a question. We would like to thank the candidates who have joined us this evening. We appreciate your engagement with us and look forward to hearing about why you are running and what's important to you. We would like to thank Dr. Harriet Emerson for agreeing to facilitate tonight's evening. Harriet has worked with PPNs at local and national level for a number of years. She supported our PPN in developing our vision and community wellbeing in 2018, developing our strategic plan in 2023, and she facilitated a collaborative project with our PPN and Wicklow County Council that resulted in the establishment of the County Wicklow Social Inclusion Network. She acts as an independent facilitator in a wide range of engagement contexts. Helen Grania will support Harriet with timekeeping and questions. If you have any problems this evening, send them a message. Tonight's meeting will begin with each candidate providing us with some information about themselves. Candidates will be permitted 2 minutes maximum. 90 seconds maximum. It is important the candidates stick to the time frame to allow everyone equal speaking time and to ensure that there's time for questions. A clock will run on the screen and we reserve the right to mute candidates if they run over, although we hope we won't need to do that. Wicklow PPN and Wicklow Older People's Council value diversity and we operate on the principles of respect, equality and inclusion. We expect that everyone on the call this evening conducts themselves in that spirit. However, in the unlikely event that dialogue should become insulting, abusive, or inappropriate, we reserve the right to remove the perpetrator. It is the role of Wicklow PPN and Wicklow Older People's Council to support our members to have their voices heard. We do this in the most part by making supportive connections. We are looking forward to making connections this evening that we hope will be beneficial for everyone now and into the future. Please be aware that we are recording this session and we will make it available to our members who were unable to join us this evening. But for now, I'd like to pass the meeting into Dr. Emerson's capable hands. Thank you all.
Thanks, Conor, very much. I think everybody's heard those very clear ground rules, which really are to make sure that we have a respectful discussion, but also one where, if you like, the candidates can contribute the maximum possible. And particularly their responses to questions which have come in from members of the PPN and the Older People's Council. Those ones have been sort of condensed under the key themes that have come in. So the questions that I pass out, the candidates have seen and also seen, if you like, the other questions that fall under that sort of heading or that theme. We ask all of the candidates to keep their responses brief, and I'm sorry that just in terms of fairness and time, we can't really facilitate a to and fro on every point. So we can't have debate, but what we're hoping is that we manage to get through a good range of questions which have come in under different themes, and we get a good overview of where candidates are coming from. So as Conor said, the first, if you like, round of responses, I'm just simply going to hand over to you in the alphabetical order that your names are going to appear on the ballot paper, and give you 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself, perhaps the party that you're standing for or not, if you're standing as independent, and the reasons why you're standing, I guess. I will also, even if it sounds a little bit funny, every time I introduce or ask somebody to answer a question, I will give your full name as the candidate, because that's what's going to appear on the ballot paper. So I hope that's sort of clear. What I'm going to do is start off, and so I'm going to come to you, Jack Cummins, first. But just to explain, we'll go down alphabetically as per the ballot paper, and then when we go to the questions, we'll, if you like, start one later and we'll continue looping it round so that people are, if you like, on a continual loop to answer questions, and everybody gets to answer all of the questions. Okay, so yeah, starting with you, Jack Cummins, 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself to everybody.
Perfect, yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
As you said, my name is Jack Commons. I'm running for Fianna Fáil. It is my first time running. I am a maths teacher. I've lived here in Greystones my whole life. My family have been here for multiple generations at this stage, so just feel it's my time to step up. I've been involved in the community my whole life. I've played for every club in the town, or soccer, or Gaelic, rugby, whatever it is. I've set up multiple companies in the town now at this stage. I ran a Maths Grinds website during COVID, which I was able to give out to the students in Greystones for free, which I was presented the People of the Year Award down in Greystones 2023 for that. And yeah, that's what started this whole journey. I launched my campaign last summer. We've been canvassing 4 days a week since last September, October. And we've called to every single house in the district at this stage. A lot of people haven't been home, obviously, but we've done our best to try and talk to everyone we can. And I'm really just trying to change the face of it all, how it works from my perspective. That I want to be contactable. The first thing I did was put my phone number on the flyer. I want people to be able to reach out, send me a WhatsApp, get back to them straight away, that sort of stuff. And very much just to give the younger generation a voice, give the younger generation a chance and someone they can talk to and ask for help, ask for guidance. I'm conscious of the clock, so I'll stop there before I ramble on.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Pleasure.
I'm going to, and for keeping to time so beautifully, that's really good. So I'm going to pass on then to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin. Would you like to introduce yourself, please? You're still, yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, I'm, as you said, Louise Fenlon Gaskin. I'm your Fine Gael candidate for the Greystones district. I was born and raised here, deeply rooted in our communities. It's where I've lived my whole life and where I've raised my family. For years, I've dedicated myself to making a difference here, from volunteering in our local parishes as a family liaison officer with Éire Óg and serving on the boards of management and the parents' associations of St. Bridget's Schools and also Temple Carrig. I've been a founder member of the Wicklow Business, the East Wicklow Business Network, and I firsthand the power of teamwork and community spirit. I'm committed to ensuring every child gets the best start, and I'm passionate about improving youth mental health services and committed to put in place proper support services for them. As a mother and a local business owner, I understand the challenges facing families and businesses, and I think better public service transport options and increased family supports are key issues. So I will help to work and build stronger, safer communities and support our local community and jobs, to invest in the infrastructure and the environment and to support our youth, which is a big thing for me. So I'll finish on that one for you.
Thank you very much.
Bingo.
More perfect timekeeping. Okay, so setting a great pattern. And on that note, I'm going to move to Orla Finn, please.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for your very kind invitation to join this meeting tonight. I really appreciate it. So my name is Orla Finn and I'm running as an independent candidate in the local elections. I have lived in Greystones for about 25 years with my husband and 4 children, and my background is in public administration. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Public Administration, and also because I believe communities and the environment go hand in hand, I recently completed a level 4 course in environment and sustainability. I strongly believe in the power of the community, and over the last 20 years I've worked with many wonderful groups in this community to help them achieve their goals. I was part of the team that delivered our inclusive South Beach playground. I serve on the board of Wicklow Dementia Support, and I run a group on Friday mornings called Musical Memories for people with dementia and their carers. I am the co-founder and I'm the chairperson of the North Wicklow Women's Shed. We have 120 members and are going from strength to strength. I actually served on the Older People's Executive Council, so I know Karina there very well. And I'm very supportive of local businesses through 2 initiatives that I run, Up Off the Couch and the Adopt a Shop. I've participated in the team that established Coder Dojo in Greystones, and I'm a former volunteer with Éire Óg Greystones GAA. I have numerous other committees and associations that I've been involved with, but I suppose I just want to finish by saying that I passionately believe in our community, and I believe that it deserves a strong, independent and effective voice that is focused on local issues. We need a voice that will act as a liaison between the community and Wicklow County Council. And with the help of the public and a #1 vote, I believe I can be that voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Orla. I should just make clear, because I'm not sure that was explained before, when we run out of time, there will be that small alarm that you had go off, and we're going to give everyone a sort of a 5-second window of grace, after which the mute X falls, okay? So please don't take offense. It's simply just so that we make sure that we're being fair, and also that we can keep pressing on. So we're doing really well at the moment, and hopefully we can stay on track. So to you, please, Kellie McConnell.
Thanks so much. So my name is Kellie McConnell. I moved to Greystones in 2017, and I became a member of the Greystones branch of People Before Profit in 2018. It's my first time as a candidate, and for my day job, I'm a general dentist in the HSE. But I grew up in Tyrone, as you can probably tell from the accent. And I went to college in Dublin, but I've chosen Wicklow for our family home because we believe it's almost perfect. We love the people, we love the sea, we love the woods and the hills, and as well as the better than Tyrone public transport links to the city. So the reason I'm running is because I want to see a change. I really want to see our community thrive. I think the wealth inequality in this area really has to be addressed as an urgent issue to ensure that people have the shelter, the accessible healthcare, and to urgently address the climate crisis for us all. So I do absolutely everything I can if I got the opportunity to represent the people of Greystones and the surrounding areas. I really want to make a difference in this world, and I promise I'll work really hard to make everything fair.
Thank you very much, Kellie. That's great. And we'll move on, please, to Lourda Scott.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Lourda Scott. I'm a Green Party candidate. I'm a veterinary surgeon by profession and was elected as councillor for the first time in 2019, having come from a background of activism and community work. And I also work very hard at being a parent to 3 school-aged children. I was spurred into politics because I was very frustrated at the lack of female representation, particularly at council level. And I suppose I took the opportunity to be the change that I wanted to see. And currently I'm the only female councillor, believe it or not, in the Greystones electoral area. I want to use my short time to talk a little bit about some of the priorities that I have going into the next electoral cycle, and particularly want to stress the work I've done on the lack of secondary school places for children, including places for children with special needs. I've been deeply involved with this since 2019. I want to continue working on this until this issue is fully resolved. I also called for the establishment of the Climate and Biodiversity Policy Committee again in 2019, and I was delighted to make this happen and chair this committee at council level. And really continuing my work on the environment here is really, really important to me and to the community groups that I'm involved with locally. I suppose it's easy to list all the problems in the area that I will be working on and focusing on, but I want to just say that I consider myself to be somebody that gets things done, and that my track record on the council backs this up. And after 5 years of working on behalf of the community, I've built up strong working relationships within the council and with outside agencies, along with the community groups I volunteer or campaign with. That means I know how to keep local issues on the agenda and know who to go to push for change. And I know most of all that persistence is the key to getting anything done when you're a councillor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lourda. And moving on, I'm going to come to Stephen Stokes, please.
Hi everybody, Stephen Stokes, Independent, and I'm honoured to serve as the current Cathaoirleach, the Mayor of the Greystones Municipal District. I grew up in Greystones. I attended St. Kevin's National School and St. David's, and I'm fortunate enough to be a graduate of UCD. My background is in education management, particularly international education. And I suppose I initially got involved in public life with Greystones Town Council because I was involved in a lot of community groups. I was on the founding committee of Gael School na Gluckley, the Irish-speaking primary school in Greystones. And I'm also an honorary life member of the Bray Greystones Chess Club. So I was awarded that honorary life membership for services with young people. And I've been a county councillor for the last 2 years. I've done hundreds of pieces of casework, and I run monthly advice clinics, and I am campaigning in particular for infrastructure, amenities, and to protect our biodiversity. And with your support, I will continue to get things done in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And I'm now going to go on to Waithera Burke.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address everyone and to talk to you. So my name is Waithera Burke, and I am the Labour representative for the Greystones Municipal District come June 7th to run as your local councillor. I first ran in 2019, and unfortunately I wasn't elected, but I'm back again. And since then, I have continued to work in the community with various organizations, being on the board for, let's say, the Family Resource Centre, working with my local schools, because my kids were, first of all, affected with the school places back in 2020. So I know what every parent is going through with all the stress about children. I volunteered with Greystones, Tidy Towns, town teams. And one of the proudest things that I have done is making sure that we have an event that celebrates unity and diversity as a community. So I organized the African, which happened actually this weekend, Africa Days and Multicultural Days within the community. I have lived in Greystones for nearly 2 decades now. Come August, I'm going to be 20 years in Greystones, raised my kids here. So I absolutely love the community. And one of the big things that I'm hoping to fight for and work for would be housing, infrastructure, youth facilities. The fact that we don't actually have a women's...
Sorry, Annie, this is what happens. Everyone has too much to say. So I'm afraid you got silenced there by the cutoff point. Okay, just before we move on, and thank you to everybody for introducing themselves. Just to be really clear, and this is clear for those people who are attending this evening, all of the member organisations and members of the Older People's Council and the Public Participation Network were asked to previously submit their questions, and as you can imagine, there were many. And so there's been a job done to condense those down, and each of the questions that we ask people to respond to this evening cover, if you like, a whole range that were submitted. And this means that it'll take us the full time that we've got to even try to get through those. So unfortunately, we're not going to take additional questions this evening. However, if anyone has anything additional that they want to raise, I suspect all the candidates are open to receiving those. If you send them in to the PPN, they will all be forwarded to all of the candidates, including those who've submitted their apologies for this evening. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and we're going to take just a minute for these responses, so I'm afraid the time gets even tighter here. I'm going to read through the first question, and I'm going to come first with that to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin. Okay, so in 1 second, I'll be coming to you, Louise. The first question that was submitted, and the first theme that was, there were many questions submitted under, relates to traffic and transport issues in Greystones. And the question is, what will you do if elected to address traffic and transport issues in Greystones? And the number of things were specifically mentioned, so you might want to reference these in your answers. There's a need for proposed new loop bus routes. You know, can you assist? What would you do to help get that up and running? The lack of coordination between DART and bus services, the Greystones DART station needing to apply to become age friendly and start preparing for the AF accreditation. And it's really around how could you help to make that a reality in Greystones? So the question, the headline question is, what will you do if elected to address traffic and transport issues in Greystones? And you can reference those as you see as appropriate. So in the first place, could I come to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin to answer that?
Okay, thank you. Well, traffic and transport is a huge issue in Greystones and has been. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and right across. My sitting councillor Derek Mitchell has done a huge amount of work on the transport. One area is that if I'm elected, is to work with the district, the other councillors that will be elected, for us all to come together, which will be very important, and work with the district. And I feel the Greystones town team and the local community groups, for us to come together, petition the Dart to become an age-friendly station. That's specifically for the age-friendly for the Dart. As regards the services, the huge amount to do with the Dart is trying to get it to the 20-minute running, which has proved it can be done, to go for 20 minutes. We're gone.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. I realise it's very tight for time, and hopefully as we go around these questions, people get but it is tight. So thank you for that. The same question then, please, to Orla Finn.
For me, this is about improving the frequency and reliability of the public transport service. I recently received over 600 replies to a transport survey that I did, the results of which I will use to lobby the Minister for Transport and the National Transport Authority to ensure that the coordination of buses and darts is made a condition of the direct award contract under which Inroad, Éireann and Dublin Bus operate. We need to get feeder buses linking directly with the Luas. The capacity and frequency of the darts needs to be increased. We need dedicated school buses and a local link service for this area ASAP. Those with disabilities have we need to ensure that those with disabilities have full access to public transport. It's a disgrace that in 2024, a wheelchair user who recently completed my transport survey said that they feel like a second-class citizen as they have to give advance notice to use the Dart. I will also work with Wicklow County Council to resurrect the transport theme of the County Wicklow Age Friendly Strategy 2025 to 2027, where Wicklow County Council has the authority to carry out an action. I will commit to making this happen. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Orla. Okay. And moving on, the same question to Kellie McConnell, please.
Thanks a million. Public transport is very high up on people before profits and my agenda. It's the best, least stressful way to travel in this area, and we can do much better than what we currently have. I think there are other countries that have fantastic public transport systems that we can look at and copy and paste to suit this area, and get people in the community involved. That's what works in Ireland, especially people power. We have expert local people, bus drivers that we've been talking to, train drivers that we've been talking to, and get them engaged and decide what's best for us all together. Why is the 84X not more regular? Why isn't there a direct bus service home from UCD? And what is happening to all these plans? If people are behind the push for public transport, then we will get what we need to make life better for us all here. And we would, of course, engage with all the stakeholders to make that happen.
Lovely. Thank you, Kellie, for that. And taking the same question to Lourda Scott, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say, there has been a small improvement in some public transport news following Green Party's investment in the area in government. There's been a reduction in fares. We also will have Bus Connects rolling out, hopefully by the end of June, but certainly sometime we've been assured through the summer, which should lead to some increase in frequency and reliability of buses. I will continue to meet regularly with the NTA and go ahead and continue to lobby for improvements and bring back complaints from citizens that are, including myself, that are noticing all the failings that we currently have. But something that I would say that we have direct influence as councillors is in supporting the council's spend of money that they're awarded for active travel measures. So investing in safe walking and cycling infrastructure and pushing the council to spend that money that's allocated for our area. And that will encourage people out of cars to help alleviate congestion. Another thing that I'm personally pushing is to see the rollout of the e-bike sharing scheme, similar to the Bolt scheme in Bray. And again, this will provide an easy, quick alternative to getting into the car for certain constituents in the area. So all of these things together are really important. Age-friendly accreditation, first thing I do is to set up a working group with the Council, Irish Rail and Age-friendly.
Thank you, Lourda. Sorry that you lost out to the clock there. This is a constant challenge. I'm going to ask the same question, please, to Stephen Stokes.
Well, as a long-time commuter, I know what it feels like to be parked in traffic on the N11, have my 184 bus not turn up, or be severely delayed by DART trains. And I certainly believe that we need a lot more ambition as councillors. We have to really push the NTA. I had a question asked at a Dáil committee level as to, why are we only extending it just slightly into North Wicklow? We need to extend the Luas much further, towards Delgany and to link up with the park and rides. But I am very supportive of Irish Rail and the DART Plus Coastal South programme. I chaired a meeting recently as Cathaoirleach of the district between the local councillors and Irish Rail. And they're looking to do upgrades between Drogheda and Greystones. And I believe they're going out to public consultation this year. And I'm very supportive of that. And just one simple thing, for example, we have the only uncontrolled crossing on the DART line just north of the marina. And if we can do something like an underpass, that will save them 30 seconds and it makes everything a lot more efficient.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So the same question, please, to Annie Waithera Burke.
Thank you again. So as the Labour Party, we have been campaigning for loop routes, which should be, as Lourda said, kind of kicking in the next couple of months. With traffic being such a big issue, a local transport plan was commenced for the Greystones Municipal District in 2021 under the National Transport Authority Active Travel Programme. But Wicklow County Council hasn't completed it, so we actually need to start demanding for its completion. There is need for us to call the NTA accountable and to call them to the council. The last time that happened was in 2018. So we need to have a clear conversation between the providers of our public transport and hold them accountable and demand for them to listen to what we are going through and what we struggle with when it comes to transport within the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annie. And also to Jack Commons, please.
Yeah, I spent 8 years in college relying on buses and darts. I understand what we need. We need more frequent darts. And it would also make sense to stretch that line to Kilcool when Greystone's the last stop, which causes more congestion in the town. It's all about making things happen. I've already been on to Minister Jack Chambers about this. He's met me at the Dart station. I've pushed this issue, I've pushed this agenda, and I would continue to do so. In regards to buses, again, people rely on them for college, school, everything else. We need live feedback from these, making sure that the right routes are getting the right services, whether it be a double decker or single decker. I propose to put a QR code at each bus stop that people can scan. It can give instant feedback and auto-generated emails saying that at this bus stop at this time, this isn't working for whatever reason. It'll just give something to work off. And then just to finish 10 seconds, what Lourda said about getting people off the roads, people are being encouraged to be more active. We need to make sure the paths are safe so kids can cycle and walk to school, which will then congestion. So there's my spiel.
Thank you very much, Jack. Okay. The second question shifts attention to looking at crime and safety. And the question is, in regard to crime, what would you like to see happening locally to make our community safe for all, including migrants and asylum seekers? So I'll just say that again. In regard to crime, what would you like to see happening locally to make our community safe for all, including migrants and asylum seekers? And I'm going to come first with that question to Orla Finn, please.
So the population of Ireland has grown by nearly 37% since 2021, and that's CSO data, but the number of Gardaí has not grown in proportion to that. It's obvious that we need to recruit more Gardaí and also more community Gardaí, and that our Gardaí need to be better resourced. If elected, I'll be advocating for more community Gardaí, for better lighting in our towns and villages, more CCTV cameras, and actually more dog wardens. In relation to the migration and asylum seekers, I just want to see all our laws applied properly and efficiently. I think we need immigration to grow the economy, and we already have a visa-based system for those applying to work here. So that system has worked well for years, and we just need to make sure that the system for asylum seekers is as robust. And I think that every citizen who lives in Ireland and is in our community should be treated equally, and that is what I would be advocating for going forward in terms of crime prevention.
Thank you for that, Orla. And the same question to Kellie McConnell, please.
Thanks. So we take a sociological approach to crime, and instead of first jumping to punishment, We look at the reasons why it happens and in ways in which we can prevent those. So if punishment wouldn't be our first port of call, although we do recognise that sometimes there may not be another alternative. So alternatives would be that we recognise that people need community spaces, people need recreational centres, we need places for people to go whenever they want to gather, and they should be provided safely. We also want to get rid of this mindset of austerity. Ireland is a rich country and there's plenty for us all. We are literally just back up to pre-famine population levels, and we believe we should tax billionaires and put the resources back into our communities rather than targeting people who have come seeking safety.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, and then same question to Lourda Scott, please.
Thank you. I just want to say, as councillors, we're fortunate enough to meet with our local police one supporter in advance of our municipal district meetings. And I can tell you that I have fed back personally sort of the information to the guards that more resources are needed. This is the information that I'm getting from my constituents, particularly in certain estates. We have been assured that staffing levels will be increased in Greystones police station and that recruitment drive has already started. We've also been assured that upgrade works on the actual building, which is badly needed, has also been started. So that's really, really important. I suppose community policing, I think, is key, particularly in our area, to making our community feel safe for all. It's that connection between the guards and the people that live here. Specifically in terms of supporting our migrants and asylum seekers, they have the right to live here as well while they're getting their asylum applications processed, and they also have the right to live here and feel safe and supported within their community. What I would like to see is I'll stop.
Sorry, Lourda, the time got to you, but I am going to just ask if there's anything you can do to check your connection, because I don't know if it affected anyone else, but you sort of hung there at the end for me. So I don't know if you can just check in to see what your coverage is like.
Thanks.
Just to be sure we don't miss anything the next time we're talking. Thank you. Okay, the same question to Stephen Stokes, please.
Yes, well, I currently chair our Greystones Joint Police Committee meetings, and I'm delighted that Chief Superintendent Derek Hughes has committed to giving us multiple extra Gardaí for Greystones in 2024. Now, when I asked how many, I was told more than one, so that's at least two. And I also welcome that there are 3 trainees have started in Bray, so I think that's important. Now, I do believe that, you know, when it comes to policing in the area, we need a better station. You know, investment is planned, but it's not currently age or disability friendly. You know, it's quite an old building with steps into it, and recruitment and retention will be key. You know, they don't even have changing facilities for certain staff in the station. So I think that's really important. But I also believe that we'll need to invest particularly in our youth services and our youth infrastructure, if you will, to prevent, you know, young people being involved or going down the wrong road, that we give them more opportunities to do positive things in the community.
Thank you, Stephen. The same question, please, to Waithera Burke.
Right, thank you again. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the work that the community Gardaí have been doing within the community, which is amazing work. But the truth is they are under-resourced and understaffed. So it definitely needs an increase in number of community Gardaí, but also to make sure that they're well equipped to do their job. They have the right amount of cars, they have the right amount of equipment and all that, but also even providing a way for them to interact with the community directly, whether it's through clinics, and through that, they already do that in places like the Kilcool Community Centre, but I would love to see more of that. In terms of migrants and asylum seeker, me being a migrant myself, is making sure that things like the migrant integration strategy plan is fully implemented and put within the county council to make sure that all migrants have the right information. And to be honest, they do have the right for, you know, the right to live, the right to housing, just like everyone else. Is making sure that they're well respected in with their own space.
Sorry, Annie, you got cut off just at the end there, but thank you for that. And the same question, please, Jack Commons.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, I've lived in Greystones my whole life. I've loved living here. It's always been a safe community for myself, and it's very easy to say as someone of my size, but like it's been a common issue on the door, people mentioning that the walk home at night doesn't feel safe. And I think it starts at the basics, making sure that the place is well lit, that there's street lights so people can walk home safely in a fully lit up area. I know recently at one stage there was only one Garda car in Greystones, and they were relying on Bray's station for call outs when if that one car was busy. Obviously that's not good enough, and definitely something that needs to be worked on. Community liaison stuff, obviously again in schools for myself, I've seen lots of interactions between guards and students, and when students are educated on this sort of stuff, when they're educated about processes, how things works, and then other stuff just like how to treat each other, and that goes for like everyone in their community, every single facet of it. As long as we're working together and people can, whether that be giving a wave to someone in the street, like making people feel safe, it's like spreading that spirit amongst each other will go a long way. But I'd say Garda cars and street lights.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jack. And the same question to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin.
Thank you. Just like all the others, I mean, there's a huge need for increased Garda presence in the area every day from morning to night time, especially for people to realise that they're there and feel safe that they're there. So the numbers of them, there's no doubt, has to increase. And especially because of the population in our area, like, I mean, throughout the whole district is just gone so much. And that, there's no question about that. And then about our Garda station as well is not fit for purpose here. So from that, we have to push very hard for the government to look at our Garda station. But the Garda presence here and the increased Garda is just my first preference to call on.
Great, thank you very much, Louise. Okay, so we're moving on again and shifting the focus this time to social housing. And the question to all the candidates is around your commitment to ensuring housing for all, including older people and people with disabilities. And specifically, one of the additional points there was what will the candidates do about doing up vacant homes to ensure that housing is top priority? Okay, so this is around social housing and your commitment to ensuring housing for all, including particularly older people and those with disabilities. And I'm going to come first this time, please, to Kellie McConnell.
Thanks very much. I'm glad I'm first on this question because I'm very proud of the work that PPP has done around social housing. We have a fantastic housing policy that I have always been very proud of, and we get people together. We are always working on bringing people into the housing demonstrations to demand social housing. We believe it should be available to everyone if they choose. And we built social housing during the 1980s during a recession. So why are we not building them now? We should be building them with a national building strategy, with the environment in mind and with workers' rights highest in priority. We've come together in the water charges. We can do it with housing, and they absolutely should be houses that are fit for our needs as a community. So older people in mind, people with disabilities, people who need homes, which is everybody. We need many more houses. Let's make it happen.
Thank you, Kellie. And I'm going to ask the same question, please, to Lourda Scott.
Thank you. Absolutely. Fully committed to housing everybody. Some of the toughest challenges I deal with as a councillor is trying to help people that are having difficulty obtaining housing, sometimes with success and sometimes not. And as I said, you really do get an insight when you're dealing with constituents in that area. I will say we have seen some improvement in the delivery of housing, social housing in general across Wicklow, including Green Party policy, which implemented the first cost rental properties in Wicklow, which were actually delivered in Archer's Wood. I would also say that along with providing housing and being mindful of our older people and people with disabilities, it's really important that we push the council to maintain our current housing stock, to make sure that they're being retrofitted and maintained rapidly so that people, particularly more vulnerable people and members of the community, are able to live in warm houses, cosy houses that are cheaper to run, and as I said, they're being maintained properly. And to this end, I've invited section from the housing section to our own municipal district meeting. They're attending next Tuesday to discuss what they're doing about this locally in our social houses.
Thank you very much, Lourda, for that. And I'm going to ask the same question to Stephen Stokes, please.
Well, I'm delighted to give my commitment to Housing for All. I certainly believe that housing is absolutely essential. And I suppose as a councillor for the last 2 years, I've had many people come and see me at my regular advice clinics to talk about housing. And I meet with people almost on a weekly basis. And I'm constantly talking to people, trying to support them. Because when people of all backgrounds, or if they've got, if they're have a disability or they're elderly, one of the hardest things for them is the feeling that you're on your own trying to find housing. And as a councillor, I take great pride in supporting people, to kind of tackle that loneliness of it. And I've been fortunate that I've helped quite a lot of people to get housed, but I think that a lot more needs to be done in terms of investment into housing, and I'll continue to press for that.
Great, thank you very much, Stephen. And I'm going to take the same question to Annie Waithera Burke, please.
Thank you. Housing is one of my top priorities. We should look in developing small-scale town or village social housing schemes for our elderly. If we think of cost rental schemes nationally, does not prioritize housing for the disability. So for people with disability, this has to change. We also need to call for central government to fully fund, and it must serve Wicklow County Council to refurbish vacant homes, derelict homes, to make sure that they become available for those who are looking for homes. And not only that, also to help people, as was mentioned earlier, to make sure that the houses are cozy, the houses are warm, that come winter, people are not struggling and things like that. And we need to start developing homes, social homes, affordable homes for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. I'm going to take the same question to Jack Commons, please.
Yeah, on the housing issue, obviously national issue at the moment, and I do think it's much more of a macro versus micro issue. From a councillor's perspective, should I be elected, it'd be great to be able to talk to the Minister for Housing, have these connections, and try and push the agenda for Wicklow. But on a local level, for myself, all I can offer people and want to offer people is to be educated on the schemes, the grants, the processes involved in getting on the ladder and getting yourself a home, and just being able to be that link for people between the party, between the council, between the local council, and for them to try and make that happen. The housing scheme, there's been 4,400 new homes in Wicklow since 2020. There's 1,100 new homes started this year, which is up on 600 from the year before. There's been 400 refurbished homes, and there's 1,850 new social homes. So things are happening, and it is just about trying to continue this process and push the agenda so that local people are looked after. And as I said, being part of a party, it's great to be able to contact people in the housing department to make something like this.
Thank you very much, Jack. And the same question, please, to Louise Fenlon Gaskin.
Thank you. So as a mother, I feel I understand the challenges of housing very much, and especially in relation to older people, I think it's working with Wicklow County Council to ensure that there are provisions put in place to ensure that the older people have security of housing, which is very important. Now, that's a huge challenge both for Wicklow County Council and the communities around. But there's a lot of planning to be done, but it is possible. And also with people with disabilities, I was fortunate that I helped a person along with Wicklow County Council to secure one of the apartments in the Hawkins Wood development. And it just showed how it was possible to be done. And then to see at the end of the day how it worked and the joy for them who they thought would never have a house of their own ever. So by us actually working with the people themselves, it is possible. There goes the button again. There isn't enough time on these.
Thank you, Louise. Yes, everybody's under the same
Yeah.
time pressure. I'm sorry. I'm going to move on and ask the same question to Orla Finn, please.
So I volunteer with the Bray Area Rough Sleepers Support Group, and therefore I feel I know firsthand from meeting with our service users exactly what it means for them to be rough sleepers and what a detrimental effect that has on them and on their families. To tackle this issue, I think we need to make sure that any vacant homes in the area are upgraded and made as habitable as soon as possible. We need to modernise our planning laws to build better houses more quickly and also much greater numbers. And we also need to make it easier to convert commercial office buildings into residential buildings. I also think that if Wicklow County Council are purchasing property for social housing needs under an executor sale for housing, then probate for this house should be prioritised. Finally, I believe that we need to develop an alternative to institutional residential care for older persons and those with disabilities. I would like to see more public and private housing based on the model of Macaulay Place in Naas, which is a housing development within walking distance of the town centre with on-site intergenerational facilities and an emphasis on what people can do rather than what they cannot do. And I will be advocating for all of this should I be elected.
Thank you, Orla. I'm just aware that Tom Fortune and Aileen Lennon have joined us. They have both come from other events that were happening this evening, so welcome to them. I'm going to give you both an opportunity, but I fully understand if you want to wait until the next question, just to answer the question that we're currently looking at. So everybody who was already in the room as candidates have answered a question on social housing and around the commitment or their commitment to ensuring housing for all, including older people and people with disabilities, and what their views are on doing up vacant homes to ensure that housing is a top priority. And what we're doing is just taking a minute each, and there's a guillotine after 5 seconds over the alarm. So I'm just going to ask you individually, Tom, would you be happy to answer that question now, or would you like to wait until the next round?
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't mind. I won't get into it too deeply because I've only come in at this tail. Just to make a couple of comments on housing. Obviously, social housing is a big challenge. But really, what should be happening with social housing, the building of social housing, should be put back to the local authorities, in my opinion. I think that would change things dramatically. There's a lot of powers being brought back to the centre at the moment, which I've been very vocal about. And I think more of these powers need to be brought back to local government. I think local government is very, very important. I think I came in there while you were talking about the refurbishment of houses that are closed or boarded up. Yeah, I would totally agree with all that. It's taken far too long to refurbish a house. It can take as long as 12 months, which is ridiculous. So these are the things that I continually talk about and push about, and should I be successful in the upcoming local election, I will continue to do. But it's a key issue. But I do.
Thank you, Tom. Sorry, you just got cut off by the time guillotine there. They're very tight minutes that we're giving people to respond, but I very much appreciate that because I realise you've joined us just in the midst of this discussion. So I'm going to move on and ask the same question to Aileen, if it's okay for you to answer. Sorry, Aileen, I think you're still on mute.
There I am. Hi, thank you for that. Look, I do think everybody knows about the challenges we've had with social housing, the challenges it's taking to get houses converted to housing for residential. But there's also other groups that are struggling with housing, including, I'm a single parent, lots of people caught in mortgages which are crippling them and their ability to move, and particularly because there aren't any suitable housing available. People are staying and getting further into debt. That's obviously a concern. And as the daughter of somebody who needs full-time care and updated disability in their home, I think that's incredibly important that we look to the model of Scandinavia and on the continent where you have these intergenerational housing developments going on. To do that, we have got to change the way we initiate our planning. I just heard the beep go, I think.
You did hear a beep. Thank you, Aileen. Sorry. I think you also broke up on us slightly there in terms of reception. So again, I know that you're traveling, but just to alert you that we might miss key bits of what you say. Okay, thank you everybody for that. I'm going to move on again, and the next question relates to community groups, and it is essentially, how will you support local community groups? And specifically in relation to that, how will you go about securing extra funding for community groups, and where do you think it should best be spent? Okay, so how will you support local community groups, and then the question of additional funding and where that should be prioritised to be spent. And I'm going to start, please, if I may, with Lourda Scott.
Thank you. So I suppose some of the best ways I can support local community groups is by my time. I volunteer with a lot of groups locally. I'm on the Greystones Tidy Towns Committee, on the Sustainable Greystones Committee, Children's Officer with the Cool AC, and involved with many others as well. I also make a point of trying to meet with as many groups as possible to listen to what those groups particularly need, and then try and act on them to the best of my abilities as a councillor. One of the actions I took out from that was asking the council to do an audit of all the social infrastructure needs in the area in 2021. And that documentary report is there, and I will be pushing the council, if re-elected, to act on that to help support our local community groups. As regards funding, there is quite a range of funding out there. I think one of the challenges is for community groups to identify what funding is available and in a timely fashion, so they've got a chance to apply. And what I would intend doing if I'm re-elected is to be in a special meeting with council executive and interested local community groups to go through all the different funding portals that are available, the rough time limits, the amount that's available, and just help support groups applying for that.
Thank you, Lourda. I'm going to take the same question, please, to Stephen Stokes.
Very much. I'm particularly passionate about working with community groups. If elected, I plan to have a networking meeting of community groups or sporting organisations that are looking for premises or looking to expand their facilities, because our district is bursting at the seams and there are a number of clubs that are at full capacity or they have no facilities. Now, in terms of funding, I've helped multiple groups with fundraisers over the years, and they include the Gael School na Gluck-Lee, the Wicklow Society of Prevention to Cruelty to Animals, our local United Nations Veterans Association, and the Greystones Family Resource Centre, of which I'm a director. What I would say to anybody out there who's involved in a community group, I have a mailing list, an email list, so get in touch with me on stephenstokes101@gmail.com. And also, I put daily updates on my social media, which includes, from time to time, things about funding updates that are going on, say, at the council or other areas. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. The same question to Annie Waithera Burke.
Yes, so when it comes to funding, I am equipped to help with funding. Come to all community groups. Me, who is a co-founder of a community group, the African Irish Society of Wicklow, I usually help apply for funding for them to make it possible for them to run different events and things like that. So if elected, I promise to advocate for funding, but also to see how we can spread the word and give the community the right information, help them to see how they can apply for all the funding that they need and make it possible for them to do what they need to do as a community group. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. I'm going to take the same question to Jack Commons, please.
Yeah, as I previously mentioned, I have played sports my whole life. I have coached in my later years as the body slowed down. But besides sports, there's still multiple other organisations in the town, like the Scouts, the Bray Lakers, the Tidy Towns, Lions Clubs. All of these different community groups offer so much to the town, and it needs to be encouraged and supported. I do think that this whole job as a councillor is using what you know, using what you can, resources available to you. I talked to Minister Thomas Byrne at the Orla about funding for clubs. I know we have aeroga capacity. Greystones United has brilliant pitches, but again, numbers are a huge issue for them. Newcastle FC, the soccer club, are looking for pitches. Sporting Greystones are trying to expand themselves. So we have lots of sports teams trying to expand, and it is just trying to connect them with the relevant people to try and get them the funding. Again, from my teaching background in a school, we have hundreds of TYs every year looking for work experience and trying to make a difference. And I'd love to be connecting our community groups with the schools on a more regular basis, whether that be tidy towns or volunteer organisations, to give something back to the community and engage more.
Thank you very much, Jack. The same question to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin, please.
Sorry, you're on me. Sorry, I couldn't unmute there. Sorry, apologies. So I spent a lot of my time through the local communities and initiatives on boards and schools and everything, fundraising. And one of the things with a lot of the groups I would do is make them aware of the funding that is available, because I think a lot of them don't actually take it up. And then I'd work with Wicklow County Council to ensure we get the appropriate funding for especially the elderly groups, and work with the groups for their needs, and if needed, to help them manage the funds that are there. And do look throughout the communities that we have, especially in the elderly, to see what other funding do they need, and that we can look, especially when we have a Taoiseach in our communities now, that we need to tap into and see what can we get to make sure they're being looked after, and what more can we do, and work with the council on that.
Louise, okay, we're going to move on again then, and I'm going to ask the same question to Orla Finn.
So I'm very proud to be the co-founder and member of several community groups, and I've supported them and others over the last 20 years. I'm especially proud of being the co-founder and current chairperson of the North Wicklow Women's Shed, which we founded in 2023 and has a membership of over 130 people. I was also a member of the committee, which along with Wicklow County Council raised 300,000 for the South Beach Playground in Greystones. So I have a proven track record in fundraising in the community, and I am currently a member of the Greystones Arts Centre Initiative Committee, and if elected, I will be advocating for an arts, culture and community centre in this district. In relation to funding, I think that we need to listen to community groups about how to spend taxpayers' money. I think we need to support groups I think support for such groups should be demand driven and in response to their needs. And one way we could do this is through participatory budgeting, which is basically setting aside a certain amount of budget, usually 2 to 3%, and to invite local people and community groups to suggest activities and projects that should be funded. And I think this would be very relevant to all of the community groups in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Orla. Okay, the same question, please, to Tom Fortune. Tom, sorry, you're on mute still.
So, apologies. I've been involved in community activities all my life. In fact, I'm in local politics because my community asked me would I step forward. I've been involved in the provision of community centres, playgrounds, all kinds of things. I've helped set up groups, I've helped set up committees, I've sat in on committees, I meet with committees and help get them organised. I think community is what local politics is all about. I think my key role as a public representative is to get involved in all that kind of activity, and I think my track record demonstrates that. And obviously, if I can get myself elected into the upcoming council, my plan would be to continue to do that. A lot of the sporting clubs across the district are obviously at capacity, and there's a great need for extra grounds. And the only way we're going to get some of those extra grounds is with some of the development that's going on, that we need to make sure that Wicklow County Council condition these people to provide that facilities for us.
Thank you very much, Tom. And the same question then, please, to Aileen Lennon. You're still on mute, sorry. No. No, sorry, you're still on mute. I can see if we can unmute you from here. Can we do that? No? Can we try that, Grania?
We've got it. It just wasn't coming up here. Look, working and volunteering all my life, so I'm not going to go through all of that, but I think it does give me a perspective on what needs to be done. Two areas I think are important. One is that we actually need to set up what I would consider to be a centre of excellence, somebody who, or people who are responsible for guiding the community groups out in the area to help them get hold of funding, make them aware. The community groups themselves are already giving over enough of their time. It can be quite onerous to try and chase this down and make sure you've covered all of it. So I would be chasing Wicklow County Council to ensure that we have named points of contact that are responsible for ensuring that all of the funding that's available is distributed because everybody got a chance to get at it. The second thing is that we need to ensure that more funding is made available and that we push hard to ensure that voluntary groups get a bigger slice of the pie moving forward.
Thank you very much, Aileen. And I'm going to ask that question also to Kellie McConnell.
Thanks. Yes, I barely have a free evening. I really think that getting to know your neighbours and getting to know your community and connecting through groups is one of the most amazing ways of integrating into a community. The group that worked the most with, oh sorry, is there somebody else who's unmuted? The group that I've worked the hardest with over the last few months is North Wicklow Against Genocide. We have over 100 members now. And the biggest challenge that we have, and any other group that I've worked with has had, is finding a space. So that comes back to planning communities, planning housing, make it community-led, have the recreational spaces in there. And I think that it is sad to see money go unspent, and I think we should have a funding champion, someone nominated to make sure that the funding is spent and that there's a centralised space that groups can go and look for funding.
Thank you, Kellie. Okay, I'm actually going to go to the next question. I've noted your point there, Annie. I'm going to go to the next question, which is around medical care. And that question is, what will you do if you're elected to advocate for the provision of proper medical care for all in the municipal district and in the county, and in particular for older people? And there is a specific question within that around the plans for the primary care centre for Greystones, first proposed in 2014, but facing numerous delays. And what would you do to get that project moving? So the question is around, what will you do if elected to advocate for the provision of proper medical care for all in our municipal district and the county, in particular for older people? And I'm going to go in the first instance to ask Stephen Stokes to answer that one, please.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I want to firstly challenge the assumption that this was first proposed in 2014. Now, I'm one of just 2 candidates who served on Greystones Town Council, and I remember vividly there was a particular party that would come in year after year and promise us that a primary care centre was imminent down at the harbour. And I always said I hoped it was a fresh dawn, not another false dawn. And it's always been another false dawn. Look, I think our health services have gone backwards, you know, under successive governments. There needs to be a lot more leadership from, you know, government to deliver for people. And I want to challenge the assumption that there aren't enough nurses or doctors for it. I met with a doctor locally who wants to set up a GP service, but wants to be in the same building as a primary care centre. Now, I believe that we have a site on the Mill Road, or that's my understanding, that it was purchased a number of years ago. And we now need to see decisive action, and I will continue to press for it.
Thank you, Stephen. I know that Annie Waithera Burke's had to step out for a minute, so I'm going to move along and ask Jack Commons if you could answer that question, please.
Yep. In regards to the medical centre, and again, I've mentioned this in my previous points about like being a member of a party gives you the access to talk to these people. Having read the questions, I was straight on to Minister Donnelly. He told me that the building is commencing in 2025 and it's due to be open in early 2026. On the doors already, I've had the chance to meet people. I had a woman from Kindlestown mentioned to me that she wasn't able to access a GP card, and again, having Minister Donnelly to contact, there was some issue with her processing, and she got it. She now has it. She's delighted to have it. like the health system, yes, there is common conceptions that things aren't working, but like there's 500,000 hours of home care help given out in the last year. There's 10,000 GP cards now being availed of. Like it is very much a case of connecting the people, making sure that everyone's being looked after, and trying to be that voice for the community on a national level, trying to make sure that we are being looked after in Greystones, making sure this private medical centre is being done. And I do think that having Minister Donnelly in our community is only going to help us.
Thank you very much, Jack. I'm going to move on and ask Louise Fenlon Gaskin, please, on the same question.
Thank you. And I do think the issue of the primary care centre is part of a wider need of the provision of health services in our community, especially for the older people and for new families who have bought their homes and moved now to Greystones. We certainly need to move that site along and get the primary care centre there. The after-hour service in Loughlinstown, however, even though it's very good and very welcome that it is there, I have met several older people who can't actually access that service out of hours, even by the fact that they can't get transport there or they can't afford to be getting taxis to go there. So we're not actually providing a good service for them. So there's a lot of issues that we have to look at outside the primary care centre as well. And that's one of the things outside the wider need that I would have an issue with.
Thank you, Louise. And thank you to everybody for keeping such great time. Can I move along to Orla Finn, please?
Thank you. So as we all know, our town has grown dramatically in recent years and now needs the health infrastructure to be in place to service it. We're all aware that our medical services are vastly overstretched, and getting local doctor or dental appointments can take days and in some cases weeks, which is obviously completely unacceptable. Greystones is the only district in Wicklow without a primary care centre, and I'm going to work with the community representatives and Wicklow County Council to prioritise this should I be elected. I also think that the care centre should include community spaces to house important community organisations that will support those that need them. One issue going forward, I feel, and which perhaps isn't an issue for the council, but does need to be looked at in relation to our overall government, is that we will have problems finding staff for our primary care centre when it is developed. And I feel that the underlying issue here lies with the number of medical personnel that are being trained each year. We've no shortage of students that want to train in the medical field, but we need to provide more university places for those that want to become doctors, nurses, etc. In relation to the older people's access to medical care, I think it's important that we make these services as easy to access as possible. And for example, Newcastle has got no doctor or dental service.
Sorry, Orla, you ran out against the clock. And I'm going to take the same question to Tom Fortune, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I would spend a lot of my time as a public representative, as a local public representative, because there's a lot of national issues coming across that local councillors actually cannot do a lot about other than advocate. And I would help hundreds of people and have helped hundreds and hundreds of people to navigate the system, both locally and nationally, help them to complete paperwork, make cases for them. You know, I was intrigued to hear that the medical card can be turned around in 4 days. I've been working for somebody since last November throughout the system to try and get a medical card for a cancer patient and still can't get it. So I would debate that particular point with whoever wants to debate it. I think the system needs to become more user-friendly. The HSE will be very involved in the centre that to be providing Greystones. It won't happen by Wicklow County Council. It'll have to be through the HSE. But I will advocate for that, as I've been doing for the last couple of years.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Tom. Okay, I'm going to just ask this question to Annie Waithera Burke, if you're back in the room. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So in terms of the primary care, like Orla said, we are the only municipal district that doesn't have one. So I think it's best that we constructively work with all 6 councillors who are going to be elected in the 5 TDs to get things moving and make sure that there's no more delays on the primary care, because at the moment, Greystones is really struggling. If you are unwell or anything, you have to really travel quite far, whether it's to Vincent's, Michael's or Loughlinstown, just to even get checked. which is absolutely ridiculous. So for us to achieve this, I think we need to work collaboratively and constructively. Sorry about that. Making sure that everything is sorted within the municipal district. Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. Press the button and it didn't work. Caught by my own whatever. Aileen knew I was coming to her, so there you go. Away you take it.
Hi. So yeah, look, if I'm elected, one of the things I would do, as I said previously about the housing and funding, is it's really important that we make people aware of what is available to them and that we find ways of streamlining the process so that people can get access to all of these things that are available without it being a chore. And I think that the council need to take the lead on some of this. And then also I would advocate for the HSE to start taking the lead on some of this. The other thing that really I think is important is that we need to be clear about what should be in the primary care centre. And I think that there absolutely should be a specialisation for geriatrics. I think it's an important skill and it's a unique skill that needs to be dealt with by people who are specialised in that area. Paediatrics, I also think that we need to have a teenage sexual health centre. It is a rising issue. It may not be the most palatable for people to deal with, but it is a rising concern. And I do think that we need to see the primary care centre build specialisation.
Thank you, Aileen. And I am sorry about this, the fact that we're squeezing everyone for time, but it does mean that we get to hear from all of you are present on all of these different issues. So I hope you'll bear with us. I'm going to take the same question to Kellie McConnell, please.
So we keep seeing the same things over and over again. We have to vote for change. We need more healthcare workers to care for our increasing and our older population. This is not an issue that one of us can address on our own. We need people power. We need to work with the TDs closely, and they play a really important role in asking parliamentary questions to the Minister for Health and other ministers who have the power in this situation. For People Before Profit, I have written our dental policy, and as a healthcare worker in dentistry and my first ever job being in healthcare as a nursing assistant in a mental health facility, every healthcare worker needs paid properly. They need to be respected. They need flexibility so they can be retained long term. We need to get rid of bureaucracy in our healthcare system and help get clinicians back helping people.
Thank you, Kellie. And I'm going to come lastly on this question to Lourda Scott, please.
Thank you. Look, I speak to a lot of people who have moved to the area and they cannot get onto GPs lists because they're full. It's a huge problem. Access to children's mental health services is absolutely abysmal. We have children waiting years for CDNT services in our area. People being forced to pay privately for accessing autism assessments. And then when they have that, there literally being no therapists available to treat those children. Considering we've had 2 ministers for health from Greystones, it's mind-boggling how bad this is locally. In terms of the primary care centre, this is now in the hands of the HSE. So, I mean, I'm perhaps surprised to hear the comment that the building will be done by 2025, 2026. That's fantastic. If the Department of Health is quicker at building buildings than the Department of Education is building schools, that would be fantastic. But perhaps it might be useful if, when I'm elected, along with my colleagues here, that perhaps we invite in Minister Donnelly to our council meetings so that we can continue to push directly through the Minister for Health as to the delivery of the primary health centre and improvement of health services in our area.
Thank you very much, Lourda. Okay, another slight shift of focus now for the next question, which is asking the candidates what your stance is on social inclusion and how you would create a society within which everybody can thrive and feel that they belong. There are a number of, if you like, parts within this question, and I'll just run through them quickly. They include, how will you work to support especially women and children refugees coming to our communities, in particular as regards housing, schooling and so on? Walkability audits, plans and actions are needed for each large town, and what would you as a candidate do to help that make that a reality in the municipal district. What would you do to make Wicklow as a county become the best place to grow old in? And do you support giving former residents of the notorious West Bank orphanage, Greystones, access to the Residential Institutions Redress Scheme or equivalent scheme, just like the abused residents of Golden Bridge, Artane, Letterfrack, or Smiley's homes? Okay, so those are a number of the issues that were raised in relation to this question of social inclusion. The overarching question is what your stance is in relation to social inclusion and how you would create a society within which everybody can thrive and feel that they belong. And I'm going to ask that question first, please, to Annie Waithera Burke. Annie, you're still on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. So in this particular question, there's so much to cover, but one of the things that I particularly do, because I work with refugees and migrants already and know some of the challenges they face, is making sure that we run and organize things like workshop and clinics, making sure that there's information and things readily available to them so that they are able to actually articulate and navigate within our community without the misunderstanding and without the misinformation that is going out there in regards to where they are at. So I've already done things like the Multicultural Days, Africa Day, and like this week we are organizing things like street dresses, making sure that they are part of the community that they are living in and making sure that they know their neighbors and the neighbors know them. That way they do not feel lonely or ostracized or pushed back on the fringes of community because they are part of the community. When it comes to the redress, yes, I definitely think it's a brilliant idea, especially if it's going to be like the ones of abused residents, because I do believe that Greystones definitely needs something like a women's refuge center that can help.
Sorry, Annie, the guillotine got to you on the clock there. I feel like it's like one of those game shows where, you know, it's that guillotine is waiting to hunt us all down. So forgive us for that. I'm going to move on and ask the same question to Jack Commons, please.
Yeah, as I said previously, being a teacher, I'm seeing it in schools on a daily basis. I really do think that students and younger people are more clued into all of this than probably the older generation gives them credit for. In the Paddy's Day Parade, we had Quiet Zones. Super Value work with the As I Am charity to make sure that there's autism-friendly shopping days. Students are so used to this. We have students who might be wearing headphones because of the noise in car doors, or might need breaks to go and de-stress and run around for a minute. I think that they can be the pioneers in this and making sure that other people are used to it. We've obviously had many immigrants in schools, kids of multi-different cultures all coming together. And I think as Greystones continues to grow, I think it really needs to hold on to a sense of what it has and what it was and show people what Greystones is all about. When I look back at my childhood at stuff like the Greystones Arts Festival and how it brought people together from all different aspects of Greystones, different backgrounds, different skills and talents, and when they were all able to come together and show off their talents. And I do think that there's been many of these in Greystones or the Africa Day or all these different places to show off cultures and talents. I think it's a great way to bring the community together.
Thank you very much, Jack. The same question, please, to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin.
Sorry. I think for us here in Greystones, we're all very proud of the community when we welcome many of the Ukrainian families and a lot of them that are still residing with us in the community. Many of them have gained employment and integrated into the community through the local schools and local works that they have done, and they've opened up places for the children. And with the example of Teaglin and the social enterprises that have been created by them, and the Rise Cafe, and also for the reformed homeless and addicts down there in Teaglin. So we need to continue to provide these services for all those that are in need. So that was great for that in our community. As regards walkability audits and all that, you'll see on mine, my papers, it was one of my priorities to do that for the disabilities. I hate that bell.
I'm sorry. Yes, the bell is going to haunt all of us, I think. Thank you, Louise. Same question, please, to Orla Finn.
So thank you. So in relation to social inclusion, I have a good track record in this area. When the Ukrainian community first arrived in Ireland over 2 years ago now, I set up a group called Vouchers for Ukraine, and myself and some friends raised over €14,500 worth of vouchers from local businesses, which we then distributed among the Ukrainian community and also to the families that were hosting the Ukrainians who visited us here. This both supported the Ukrainians and helped them integrate into our community, but also supported local businesses, which I feel is very important. And I have continued to be involved with various people from the Ukraine over the last number of years in terms of finding them jobs and helping them with accommodation. And I would hope to do so with the Ukrainians and other groups going forward. In relation to the walkability audit, I did join with Greystones Tidy Towns this year, and we walked through the streets of Greystones and had a look at how easy or difficult it was to use our streets. And I would continue, if I am elected, to meet with other groups of all ages to discuss with them what their priorities will be going forward.
Thank you, Orla. And the same question, please, to Tom Fortune.
Thank you. You couldn't possibly do justice to your question. It's so broad with all the points you had in a minute. But what I would say is I'm very involved in education locally. I'm chair of a second level college. I'm chair of a third level institution, and I'm also on the board of a primary school. And that's where I see practically all of the inclusion that's going on. The young people are absolutely fantastic. And it's a pleasure for me to be involved in that and to see it. And I see that also in my own community, the inclusion is absolutely brilliant on the ground. And again, when the Ukrainians started to come to the country first, the men shed in my own area were fantastic and sent loads and loads of foods and different things by transport. So that to me is key. I'd love to be able to deal with all the other points you've raised, but can't do that in a minute. So I'm not going to I wouldn't be able to do justice to it, but I will work very hard on all the issues you've raised, as I've been doing for the last number of years.
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to ask the same question, please, to Aileen Lennon.
Yeah, that's a very multifaceted question, and I think, to echo Tom, there's quite a lot to unpack. But I will focus on two things. One is, yes, having worked with children all my life and having worked across all ages with children, I do think that this sort of multicultural inclusion activities best starts at home and best starts with the kids. So if we can provide environments where the younger people are meeting, then that will tend to resonate across multi-generations. I am currently working with a Ukrainian group who are working with mothers, actually, and you may not know that Ukraine has now moved to number 5 in the divorce rate. The war has created massive schisms in family life there. So we're actually working and setting up an organisation that's being sponsored by Europe that will allow families to, one, settle themselves here, or also find a way home and back to the Ukraine. So,
thank you very much, Aileen. I'm going to take the same question to Kellie McConnell, please.
So this should be about respect. People shouldn't have to ask charities for help. We have enough in this country. Going back to housing, there are over 160,000 vacant properties in Ireland. And I'm sad to see that Wicklow County Council has not always spent the budget in areas such as travellers. There's plenty for us all here. We just need to redistribute the wealth, and 99% of people would do better with policies that are fairer for us all. So we need more transparency. The roads need to be invested in. They're full of potholes and uneven pavements, and that's very unsafe for older people and people who use wheelchairs. Absolutely, I would support the redress scheme, and I'm a founding member of Wicklow United Against Racism, Wicklow for All, and North Wicklow Against Genocide. And I'm also someone who was diagnosed with ADHD in adulthood, and I've campaigned with ADHD Ireland for them to.
Thank you, Kellie. I'm going to ask the same question to Lourda Scott, please.
Thank you. Look, this is a subject very close to my heart. I think it deserves more than a minute, to be honest with you. But I want to start by saying that I represent everybody in the Greystones electoral area, regardless of their gender, regardless of where they originally lived and came from. And that as far as I'm concerned, everybody is welcome in our locality. I suppose as a public representative, I'm very aware at the moment that we have to lead. And one of the things you can lead on is by being inclusive with the language that we use. Either on social media or in public forums such as this or council meetings, and be really careful not to amplify hate or divisive speech or actions. What to say, sort of, as a councillor, one of the things again that I have done, and I think adds to creating a society where everyone can thrive, is by actively participating in strategies such as the consultation process of the migrant integration strategy, the disability inclusion strategy, and putting forward the needs of your community into those strategies. I organised the Make Dayway Access Audit by Greystones Tidy Towns, and I am continuing to work with the council to follow up on the actions we found there.
Thank you very much, Lourda. And lastly, this question to Stephen Stokes, please.
Thank you. And I'd love to start with West Bank. They need full redress. They deserve respect, and they're not going away. And I believe very strongly that this needs to be addressed without delay. And I don't want us to end up in a situation where a Taoiseach in the future is going to have to apologise for the length of time it's taken. And I certainly believe that we need to support organisations in the community who work and assist people of disadvantaged or migrant backgrounds, such as the Greystones Family Resource Centre, but they need purpose-built facilities to do that. Now, in terms of how I've helped people in the community to integrate or for smooth relations, I helped a number of Ukrainians when they arrived in Greystones to write and build their CV. And I also coordinate the Greystones summer chess sessions in the Burnaby Park, which brings people together of all backgrounds. An exclusive announcement. It's going to happen again this summer, every Saturday in August from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'd welcome everybody down.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay. I think everybody's answered that question, and so I'm going to move along to the next one, which again is a change of gear, and this is around which climate actions you see as urgent locally within this municipal district. So Wicklow County Council has recently adopted its climate action plan, and the questions are looking to see, or the questionnaires are looking to see, what key actions would you like to see implemented out of that, and how will you highlight climate action and biodiversity in relation to land and sea in your local work. So it's really which climate actions do you see as urgent within the municipal district, please? And I'm going to start, if I may, with Jack Commons, please.
All good. I read through the plan, and I know that they're looking to reduce 51% the carbon emissions, 50% improve energy efficiency. I think people generally are keen to do this. People are open to this. But it goes back to questions we had earlier about the availability to do so. People are being told and encouraged to walk to work, walk to school. But if our services aren't up to scratch, it's not going to be possible if the paths aren't safe, if the roads aren't lit, if the transport's not running. So I do think that other things are going to rely on this in order for us to be able to achieve our goals. In regards to local things people can do at a small scale level, like the no mow in their house, keeping areas of their garden, being able to grow for biodiversity is very easy to push, very easy to encourage and educate people on. And then we also have the opportunity out on sea with the Codling wind farms. I met with them last month, really productive meeting. They're going to work with the local schools to allow the students to name the wind farms, which is very engaging with the community to make sure everyone sees it, buys into it, and understands what's happening. And I think that's what innovation evenings are going to be very crucial for people to buy into it.
Thank you very much, Jack. I'm going to ask the same question to Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin, please.
Thank you. Obviously, a lot, even what Jack said there around the transport and that, is an issue. Bringing it back down to some of the smaller levels, I'd like to is obviously increase funding in areas. And I have to admire Lourda for the work that she has done with the tidy towns and that, because they've been leaders as regards the sensory garden and that we have in Greystones. And I'd love to see that go out further in our communities, because I think it's a huge success and very much needed throughout all the municipal districts. So I think there's a lot of smaller projects that could be of much more benefit to the communities, that rather than the bigger project, that we could look at a lot of smaller ones within communities. And it's one thing I think could be very beneficial. Again, with the schools are doing a huge amount themselves, but with a little funding into the schools, they could do a lot more. Bell again. And I think that would be great.
Thank you, Louise. The same question to Orla Finn, please.
Thanks very much. Listen, all actions mentioned in the Wicklow County Council Climate Action Plan are urgent, so I'm not going to pick one in particular. It's a 144-page document, and if the planned actions are just suggestions or aspirations, what is the point? So we really need to address them all over the next couple of years. Of course, momentum can be built by dealing first with the actions which are easiest to implement, but all aspects of the plan should be important in the long run, or else it's not going to be a real plan. I would like to say, though, that the CEO of Wicklow County Council, in her foreword on the Climate Action Plan, has said that over the lifetime of the plan, 2024-2029, the ambition is to achieve 51% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from all local government buildings, assets and infrastructure. If I am elected, I will use my influence on the council to hold the CEO accountable for reaching this target, but I will not obviously attempt to interfere at an operational level. Personally, I would highlight for myself, if elected, the fact that public transport can help reduce our carbon emissions. Other EU countries have introduced new objectives with this in mind. For example, in Luxembourg, public transport is free to use. And I think it's time we considered using free public transport at peak time.
Thank you, Orla. The same question, please, to Tom Fortune.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this is a really, really important area. 5 years ago, at the council AGM, I proposed that we would add an extra SPC into our system. That's a strategic policy committee, which was done, which Lourda Scott currently sits on. I think she currently chairs it. I think what's very, very important, and I'm speaking as a local councillor, because there's certain things that local councils can push and influence, is that we need to make sure that all planning decisions are taken on board the SPC element of climate within the council. I think that needs to get more focus. And recently, the students in Coláiste Craigbown held a climate summit and had some excellent speakers at it, which I attended. And again, I think this is where the key is. It's in the schools, education, and it is starting to work really well. There was also a section on climate justice, which I think was very important, because we have to be fair to people as well in this whole process, and not just be one-dimensional about it.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm going to ask the same question, please, to Aileen Lennon.
Yeah, look, I'm obviously committed to climate action, and I think, as Orla said, the document that currently exists 144 pages long, so I don't think anybody underestimates the task that is ahead of us, and I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that we are woefully behind these targets. I've lived in many European countries over the last, 30 years, and I know we're also so far behind them in terms of what we need to be doing. But if we want to look at it locally, we need to do two things. One, we need to encourage parents to get out of their cars and walk their kids to school. And we need to find a way for people to get out of the town that doesn't involve cars. On the first one, we've started with the walking trains. We just need to make those, more popular and across the entirety of the school system. And in relation to public transport, we have got to get the park and ride going. We have got to get proper shuttle buses in place. We have to get people out of their cars. That's how we can do it locally.
Thank you, Aileen. Can I pass that question to Kellie McConnell, please?
Thanks. Public transport absolutely would be one of the first things that we need to put in place. It will help everything when it is free, frequent and reliable, and it's easier to get a train than it is to get in your car and find a car parking space. How can we ask people to walk their children to school when they can't get into a school? We need to look at our community planning and put the infrastructure in place for people. Biodiversity is a massive crisis. We need to really address greenhouse gases. Something that we could do locally is to get compost bins on the streets as well as in our homes and in our apartment complexes. It has a huge impact on greenhouse gases. And I think the biggest way the council could make a massive difference to the climate action is to commit to using the best possible materials in construction and housing. We shouldn't be focused on profit in terms of money. We should be focused on the benefit to our planet and our community.
Thank you, Kellie. And the same question to Lourda Scott, please.
Thank you. I chaired the committee that produced this plan, and I can honestly say that every single of the 135 actions have to be prioritised if we were to get our emissions down by 2030 and if our children are going to have a future. One of the reasons I want to get re-elected is to come back onto that committee and to make sure that all of those actions are implemented. Locally, some of the key ones for us would be the action supporting coastal erosion works, the action supporting retrofitting of our social housing stock. But in particular, I want to highlight there's a group of actions under the heading Governance and Leadership, and they all put the onus on Wicklow County Council to start bringing environmental decisions at the heart of each departmental decision. So not just in the climate section, but across planning, across housing, across all senior management level. So a culture change should happen. That should stop things like the clearance of the field, the Burnaby field behind Charlesland that happened there just before December. It should stop stuff like that happening and be able to hold the council to account. But I'll just finish by saying all of these actions need to be done. Please go and read them, every single candidate.
Thank you, Lourda. And the same question to Stephen Stokes, please.
Thank you very much. Well, something I do for biodiversity is regular cleanups twice a year of the Dr. Ryan Park. I've run 3 so far. And in that time, thanks to the volunteers, we've collected 650 kilograms of waste estimated been removed from that particular park. Now, I want to highlight at one end of the county, we are creating a decarbonised town in Arklow, but Wicklow County Council at the other end of the county in Greystones wiped out the field between Charlesland Wood and Burnaby Mill. So I met with the chief executive on the site to say that this is not acceptable, and I will continue to challenge these things in Wicklow County Council, full meetings, in public display, because we have to hold people making these decisions to account. And I just want to say as well that we do need to invest in our public transport, our cycling and our walking with improved footpaths to get people out of the cars. And we also need to future-proof. So I certainly believe, as standard, developers should be required to put in electric vehicle charging points going forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And that question also to Annie Waithera Burke, please.
Thank you again. So for me, I would say achieving the just transition, particularly for communities that may be economically disadvantaged by the decarbonizing project and or impacted by climate change, needs to also come to the forefront, because I believe that nobody should be left behind. Mainly because, for example, if you look at things like retrofitting, is make sure that even the people who are in the poverty end of our communities can actually retrofit their house and make their house more warmer, where they do not need to be using green gases and things like that. Like everyone else has said, public transport has to improve, including our roads, our infrastructure, but also making sure that we have enough cycle lanes where children can actually cycle back into from home, from school, encouraging everyone to take public transport, but making sure that everything runs consistently and diligently for everybody within the municipal district.
Thank you, Annie. I'm going to suggest, Grania, if it's possible, that we shift to a 30-second clock. I know that'll make all of you just cringe even more, but we have a very limited amount of time left, and I want to see if we can get through maybe 2 questions. They're quite specific, and they're asking very directly in the first instance. The next question: what are you doing in your own life to help reduce your carbon footprint or your climate impact? So very specifically to you as an individual, for all the candidates, what are you doing in your own life to help reduce your carbon footprint or your climate impact? And I'm going to ask that in the first instance for 30 seconds. So everyone's going to have to speak really fast. To Louise, Fenlon, Gaskin, please.
We seem to have lost Louise. Or believe her to last.
Louise is here. We've lost Aileen.
Yes, no, Aileen's had to leave. But Louise, can you hear us?
Apologies, Louise.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, something happened. My sound, it went down. Sorry. Okay, so what we've done here at home is we've put done with a water regen system where we're recycling our water and rainwater here. So that was one of the bigger things that we did through. Now it took a bit of time to get it right. I can tell you we had water overflowing at one stage, but we seem to have it working well now. There's 7 of us in the house here. So you can imagine the amount of water that was being used in our house. And so that was a big thing for us here.
Thank you very much, Louise. Can I ask the same question to Orla Finn, please?
I strongly believe that we need to educate people, particularly our young people coming through, on environment and sustainability and what we can do to help the environment. And for myself, I went and I did a level 4 environment and sustainability course with the KWETB, and I followed that up with a beekeeping course with Ashford Beekeepers. It was really interesting. I'm a firm believer in shopping local and not online. I support the charity shops. I use recycling bins. I avoid using the heating whenever I can, and I try and avoid using plastic bottles too. And I guess my policy is make the most of what we've already got. Use what we have.
Thank you, Orla. The same question to Tom Fortune, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I suppose the biggest thing that I've become reasonably good at anyway is the proper use of all the bins and the proper separation of the various pieces of refuge. But the biggest thing for me is again my involvement in education, and to witness and see the example that the students that I bounce off on a very regular basis, their attitude and what they're doing. And that's where the future is. That's where the change is going to be. There's no point in making big claims here with you this evening, but that's where it's all going to improve and is improving, and that's where I put the focus.
Thank you, Tom. I can't go to Aileen Lennon. She's had to leave us. She has care responsibilities and duties at home. So I'm going to move on, please, to Kellie McConnell.
I use public transport as much as I can. As a granddaughter of a dairy farmer, I don't eat animals. We're fastidious about composting and fabric disposal, and I try to buy as much secondhand as I possibly can. But I think the biggest thing that I do for my climate anxiety and climate action is be a member of People Before Profit. The policies that we push for put the focus back on the main culprits, the big businesses, and not on ordinary people. And I think we will see a lot more change if we push as a community for those to take responsibility.
Thank you, Kellie. Can I ask the same question to Lourda Scott, please?
Thank you. If you take a look at my lawn, I would say that I implement no mow May probably about 12 months a year, which has got to be good for biodiversity. Look, I think everyone has to look at their own life and see where they have the ability to find the power to help address the climate crisis. That's going to be different for everyone. For me, it's actually putting myself forward and running for re-election, and hopefully getting re-elected and pushing the council to keep putting into action policies that will help address the climate and biodiversity crisis. And that's the best that I can do with my power at the moment.
Thank you, Lourda. Can I ask Stephen Stokes to answer that question?
Thank you. I use public transport regularly as a long-time commuter. I also bought an e-bike to try and cycle to residents when I need to meet them from time to time. I have a fully plant-based diet myself, and I would like to do more, though. I'd like to be able to get more trains down to Wicklow town for our full county council meetings, which are at 2 p.m. The earliest train is at 10:30, and then the next one is 2:30, but I did it once, and I have to thank Councillor Scott for giving me a lift home afterwards.
Thank you very much. Stephen, apologies if I cut you off peremptorily there, Lourda. Can I ask the same question to Annie Waithera Burke, please?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, I only got a car last year, so I've been on public transport all this time. But even now, I'm trying to keep myself on public transport as much as I can. In terms of my own personal life at home, I am using the bins the right way, but also making sure that I have a biodiversity or a green space within my own home. So I have a place for the bees and the birds and everything like that. But also encouraging my own children to walk to school and use the public transport and cycling as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. And to Jack Commons, please.
Yeah, the new can return scheme, availing of that, making sure that's used in the house. We have a new baby at home. I can say we probably got 90% of our stuff off zero waste Facebook pages. They are very invaluable in the community. And then, as Tom mentioned, I really think it's about the future, not about what we can do today. Obviously, we can all try our best, but educating the kids in the schools, there's green school committees, making sure the kids all dispose of their lunch in the correct ways, making sure they're not bringing in plastics every day. There's cycling buses. It is them that are going to make the future cleaner for them. I think that is very important for us.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, so see what we can do in a bionic whip round. So just to keep everybody to it, I'm going to take one last question, and again, a 30 seconds response. And this is around one community action. So this is to ask each of you just one community action that you've contributed to in this municipal district that you are particularly proud of. Okay, so just one community action that you've contributed in the municipal district that you are particularly proud of. And I'm going to start, please, with Orla Finn.
I'm going to use the Greystones South Beach Playground as my example. It was a 2.5-year project working with people in the community, working with 11 parents in the community and with Wicklow County Council. I was the head of fundraising, and we raised 150,000 between us, and that was matched by the council. And it was my first example of delivering a community project with Wicklow County Council. And I'm delighted to say that we did it. It does need some work now going forward, and that is something that I will be working on should I be elected. So thank you.
Thank you, Orla. Same question to Tom Fortune, please.
Thank you, Chair. God, where do I start? I've been involved in a good number of projects. I suppose the one that I would mention would be the community centre in Kilcool, where myself and 5 others, we were given the old national school, and we turned it into a fantastic community centre that has been used now by all the community. We have a number of activities on the site as well, the Scouts, and we also have the men's shed. Then across the community, I've been involved in various projects across Greystones, Newcastle, different places, and I see that as a key role going forward, and I continue to work that way should I be elected.
Thank you very much, Tom. Same question to Kellie McConnell, please.
Thanks. So I am very proud of my ability to bring people together. I was one of the founding members of North Wicklow Against Genocide, which was originally Greystones Against Genocide, in November of 2023, and in April of 2024. Thank you very much to Councillor Fortune and Councillor Scott for bringing forward a motion for Palestine to make Wicklow County Council an apartheid-free zone and to commit to BDS, and bringing people together for film screenings such as Rosie and the swimmers to humanise people's
Thank you, Kellie. The same question to Lourda Scott, please.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk tonight about walking and cycling to school, so I'm going to pick my achievement at getting 30km/h speed limits around all schools in the county. Has been an achievement I'm very proud of. It started off with a motion being passed at our local council meeting in Greystones, and I worked with the Love 30K and other community groups, and they had the largest number of public submissions to the consultation on the speed limit review. The largest number by far came from the Greystones district, and that really helped working with the community in getting the council to agree to having 30km/h speed zones around our schools.
Thank you very much, Lourda. Stephen Stokes, please.
Thank you very much. I would say being involved with the campaign to secure Gael School na Gluckley. For a time, I even served as secretary of the campaign. I got involved in it because I wanted young people to have the opportunities that I never had growing up in Greystones, to have an Irish-speaking school. And now I believe passionately that they need a secondary school, because only about a third of them go to Cloister Raheen and Bray. The rest go to English-speaking schools. And I certainly will passionately campaign for more facilities and schools for young people.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Annie Waithera Burke, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you. One of the biggest achievements that I have had is actually bringing the community together, mainly because it affected me negatively, and I managed to twist it and make it a positive a positive input within the community, which has now developed into the multicultural festival for the whole community. And this is one of our biggest events for the whole year. And we have people coming from all sorts of places coming to Wicklow to celebrate diversity and unity within our community, which I think is a positive input. And I hope to continue campaigning for that if elected.
Thank you, Annie. The same question to Jack Commons, please.
I've always struggled to say no to getting involved in things. I was recently involved in the Paddy's Day parades. I'd previously won the Strictly Come Dancing down there, raising money for them. But I'm most proud of winning the People of the Year award last year for a business I set up during COVID. I was given free match grinds to students all over. Well, I know Greystones were talking specifically about, but it was all over the country. There was a couple thousand kids all over the country availing of free grinds. And then in Greystones, it was spread on the open forum. There was hundreds of kids using it. They were availing of discount codes that gave them like a free access to the website. That's what started this whole career. So that would be it.
Thank you very much, Jack. And lastly to Louise Fenlon Gaskin, please.
Thank you. I suppose one of the biggest things for me was I'm very involved with St. Bridget's School, and the old convent there was being sold, and a developer was going to buy it. The Department of Education wasn't interested in buying it for the school. So tirelessly I got involved, and with Minister Harris, we eventually did turn the Department of Education around to buy it for the school. So that's my biggest thing, to keep the developer out of the main town.
Thank you very much, Louise. Okay, I'm aware that there are going to be people that are watching here and that will be watching this online who are frustrated that we haven't managed to get to the last three of these sort of summarized questions. But I know that there were people who were coming in this evening hoping they could ask additional questions. I am betting that some of the candidates here are wishing they could ask one another questions. We just simply couldn't get to that. So my apologies for not managing all of that. But if you do have further things, all of these questions have been put forward to all of these candidates, and the PPN will put forward anything else. If you want to forward anything, that'll definitely be passed on. I should, just to be very fair about this, say that we did have apologies also from two other candidates. That was Brian Fogarty and Esther Kellie. And also that Aileen Lennon had to leave, as I've already explained. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to these candidates who've given up what is, I recognise, valuable time that you could have been on the doorsteps and so forth. But I think it's important to mention, and you'll probably be aware, that not only have we had people in the room this evening, the video of this entire webinar will be put up on the PPN YouTube. The previous hustings that have been held have been getting quite a number of hits, and there's also been quite a lot of press coverage. So if you've got any feedback, we'd also be very interested to hear that too. I would just like to say thank you very much for all of the cooperation that the candidates have kindly shown this evening, both in attending. I think this is a real stand-up moment for our local democracy, but also particularly for sharing their views on the different questions that have been raised. So thank you from me. I'm going to hand over to Karina, and she is going to round out this evening's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Harriet. I'd just like to say, on behalf of Wicklow PPN and Wicklow's Older People's Council, I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd also like to thank Harriet for facilitating our event. We hope that this evening has given our members a sound introduction to all the candidates. We also hope that the meeting has provided an insight into where all the candidates' interests lie and what work and issues they might prioritise if they are successful on the 7th of June. We hope that in turn, this meeting has given the candidates an insight into the concerns and priorities of our members, and should they be successful on the 7th of June, they will work towards achieving positive outcomes on many, if not all, of these issues. As Conor from the PPN Secretariat mentioned earlier, we are aware that there have been far more questions submitted than there was time to ask. We have developed a document containing all the questions, and this was sent to the candidates in the hope that they will use them as a reminder of what our members see as important. and what our members will use to measure their work in the future. A link to the document will also be shared in upcoming PPN newsletters. We'd encourage you to have a look at the PPN Election Special newsletter sent on the 26th of April. All newsletters are on the PPN website. We would also like to draw the candidates' attention to the vision for community wellbeing that were developed from extensive consultations in 2018 and reviewed during consultations in 2022. These can be found on the PPN website. The Greystones MD Vision for Community Wellbeing states that Greystones MD is an inclusive, caring place with a unique, thriving economy where all citizens have good health, are actively involved in their community and in the stewardship of the environment. We hope that the collaboration and engagement this evening continues and that we can work together to achieve this vision. We wish the candidates well in their endeavours and thank them and our members for the attendance tonight. Good night and thank you very much.